For every action, there is a consequence. And while it might feel unthinkable in the moment to forgive someone, especially if you've been on the receiving end of a terrible action, the majority of people would still say that they believe in second chances. So why then are 8 to 12 million of our closest friends and companions denied a second chance in this country every year? I'm not talking about our fellow humans, but rather our furry friends, our loyal companions who love us unconditionally and are integral parts of our families. The sad reality is that oftentimes these loving creatures are simply forgotten about, doomed to roam the streets and fill the shelters of the cities they inhabit, before ultimately being euthanized without a second chance of hope for a new life with a family that loves them. And so today I want to talk to you about the three main causes that our best friends are finding themselves in this predicament: overpopulation, mass breeding facilities, and the high cost of pet care, and how you can play your part in overcoming the challenges facing this society. For my first point, I'll explain what exactly is pet overpopulation for those unfamiliar with the term. Simply put, overpopulation exists when there are not enough houses for the number of animals who are born in the United States every year. According to the Helping Hands Humane Society, each year between 8 and 12 million dogs, cats, puppies, and kittens are euthanized because there are simply not enough homes for them. And while these animals who are sadly no longer with us certainly got the worst end of the deal, another 6 million who are still alive will enter animal shelters every year in the United States, patiently waiting for the day that they are given a second chance at life with a new loving family, a day that unfortunately will never come for many of these animals. And so the natural question that then arises from this situation is, why are so many pets being born if there aren't enough houses and people to take care of them? And while a solid chunk of these births occur naturally among stray and feral animals, millions more are a result of being born in a crueler and much more awful way than you could possibly imagine. Which brings me to my second point: for-profit mass breeding facilities. According to the Puppy Mill Project, an estimated 167,388 breeding dogs are currently living in USDA licensed commercial facilities for breeding purposes at this very moment, spread across 10,000 puppy mills in the United States, which are responsible for the birth of over 2 million puppies on an annual basis in this country. If this is new information to you, let me take a moment to explain what exactly a puppy mill is and why they exist in the first place. Essentially, pet stores sell animals for profit, and the vast majority of these animals that are being sold in pet stores originated in large-scale breeding mills, where they were crammed into tiny, filthy spaces, oftentimes wire cages stacked one on top of the other, which offer no protection from the heat, cold, or inclement weather. Breeding parents spend their entire lives confined 24 hours a day to these disgusting cages where they are forced to breed every heat cycle until they are eventually killed because they can no longer reproduce. And it isn't just the parents who are suffering from these horrendous conditions. Puppies are taken from their mothers at too young of an age and oftentimes develop serious health or behavioral issues due to the terrifying conditions that they are bred and shipped in. This leads to expensive veterinary care, heartbreak, and stress for their future owners. The bottom line is that puppy mills are all about profit, and thus they treat animals not like the loving creatures they are, but like products. Any money spent on proper vet care, quality food and shelter, or an educated staff to take care of these animals would erode their profit margins and thus these costs are passed on to you, the eventual pet owner. Which brings me to my third point, the skyrocketing cost of pet health care. According to the Journal of Applied Animal Welfare Services, 6% of pets are given up or abandoned due to the cost of care being too high, with relinquished dogs and cats simply at the mercy of unequipped owners or unfair situations. Oftentimes, it's a sad case of being born at the wrong place in the wrong time, but it's impossible to ignore the skyrocketing costs of pet health care in recent years. Last year, pet owners spent nearly $70 billion on their pets, according to the American Pet Products Association, and their report published in February of this year found that pet owners spend anywhere from $9,000 to $13,000 for medical treatments over the course of their companion animal's lifespan, with fewer than just 5% of these animals being covered by any form of medical insurance, leaving the owner to pay the full price of an expensive treatment out of pocket or make the difficult decision to euthanize their best friend because they can't afford the treatment they need. And while pet insurance is rising, continuing to breed these animals in unsanitary and disgusting conditions, which can lead to mental and physical deformities, is certainly not helping. But what if there was a way that we could put a stop to all of this? Luckily, a solution does exist which addresses the three main problems: overpopulation, mass breeding facilities, and the rising costs of pet healthcare. And that solution is adopting your next pet from your local animal shelter. By adopting your next pet from a local animal shelter, you are literally saving that animal's life, saving it from the likelihood of being euthanized because it couldn't find a new permanent home. Additionally, by adopting a pet that's already alive, you're taking away demand from breeders to create new pets, stripping them of the revenue they desperately need to keep their inhumane practices operational. And perhaps the icing on the cake in this whole situation is that by getting your next pet from the animal shelter, you'll be saving a significant sum of money compared to traditional methods of buying from a breeder or a pet store, because the cost of spaying or neutering, the first year of vaccinations, and sometimes even microchipping is also included in the price of the adoption, which can save you some of the upfront costs of adding a new member to your family. Additionally, if you adopt an adult pet, you can save some more money that you would otherwise spend on training costs, and a lot of the times get a nice, well-behaving dog who simply just needs a new home. Imagine your joy when you walk into your local animal shelter and pick out the pet of your dreams, with the added benefit of knowing that you aren't supporting animal cruelty. Imagine the happiness of your new best friend who's been waiting for months, maybe even longer, for a second chance at life with a new family. And the best part is, you don't just have to imagine these things. It's as easy as going down to your local animal shelter and picking out a new best friend. Now, I know that owning a pet is a major responsibility, and we certainly don't want these animals to wind back up in unstable or uncertain environments. But if you're already thinking about adding a new pet to your family, it needs to be from your local animal shelter. Think of how good you'll feel that not only you got a great deal on your new family friend, but that you played your part in curbing this epidemic of overpopulation and this horrendous practice of mass breeding facilities, as well as the skyrocketing costs of healthcare that has accompanied them. So when the time is right, I would ask you to remember that you have the power to end the practice of purchasing pets from breeders and pet stores, which would be a tremendous help and could potentially save the more than 6 million dogs and cats who wind up in animal shelters across the United States every single year. When the time is right, remember that you have the power to save a life. Thank you.